Have you ever looked at an ant and wondered what it understands about you? It can feel you. It can sense the vibration of your footsteps. It can even smell the chemicals your body releases. But it cannot see you. Its brain was never built to process something your size. You exist in a dimension completely beyond what its senses were designed to detect. And yet, to that ant, you are real. Your effects are real. The shadow you cast, the tremors you cause, the sudden disappearance of everything around it when you decide to act. All of it is real. It just has no framework to understand what you are. So here's the question this episode is really asking. What if we are the ant? In 1884, a mathematician named Edwin Abbott wrote a short book called Flatland. It described a world of two dimensions, no height, no depth, only length and width. Flat creatures living on a flat surface completely unaware that a third dimension existed above them. Now imagine a sphere, a simple three-dimensional ball, passing through that flat world. What would the Flatlanders see? They would not see a sphere. They cannot. Their eyes were never built for the third dimension. What they would see is a circle appearing from nowhere, growing larger, then shrinking, then vanishing completely. No origin, no explanation, just a presence that arrived, changed everything around it, and left. To a Flatlander, that sphere would look exactly like what every ancient culture across human history has described as a miracle. You see, this is where it gets interesting, because Abbott's thought experiment was not just a philosophical curiosity. Within decades of publishing it, physicists began seriously considering that our own universe might be exactly like Flatland, but one dimension higher. We live in three dimensions of space. We move forward and backward, left and right, up and down, and we have one dimension of time, always moving forward, never backward. But what if that is not the full picture? What if there are dimensions beyond the three we can perceive, and everything we have ever called impossible is simply the effect of something moving through those dimensions in a way our senses were never designed to detect? String theory, one of the most serious attempts physicists have ever made to explain how reality actually works, requires not 4 dimensions, not 5, but 10 dimensions of space and 1 of time to function mathematically. 10 dimensions. 6 of them are curled up so small that no instrument we have ever built can detect them directly. They exist at a scale smaller than anything we can measure. But the mathematics demands them. Remove them and the entire theory collapses. So we have a situation where the leading framework for understanding the fundamental nature of reality requires the existence of dimensions that are completely invisible to every human sense we possess. Dimensions that are real, provably real within the mathematics, and completely beyond our perception. And then people ask whether it is possible that something could exist beyond human perception. Think about what a being with access to even one extra dimension would be capable of from our perspective. A three-dimensional hand passing through Flatland can touch the inside of any two-dimensional object without passing through its walls. To a Flatlander, that is impossible. Objects have walls, walls cannot be bypassed, and yet the three-dimensional hand does it effortlessly, because it enters from a direction the Flatlander has no concept of. Now apply that same logic upward. A being with access to a fourth spatial dimension could reach into any closed three-dimensional space without passing through its walls, could see the inside of every object simultaneously, could be present in multiple locations at once, because from a higher dimension, all points in our space are equally accessible, could exist outside of time entirely, because time as we experience it is simply one direction of movement, and a being with access to dimensions we cannot perceive would not be bound by the direction we are forced to move. This is what the physicist Michio Kaku, one of the co-founders of string field theory, observed when discussing higher dimensional beings. He said a being existing in higher dimensions would appear to us as omniscient, omnipresent, and capable of things that violate every physical law we understand. Those are not his words for God. Those are the mathematical properties of a higher dimensional entity as described by physics. The language just happens to match. Now here is where this episode becomes something more than a physics lesson. Because across every culture in human history, separated by thousands of years and thousands of miles, the descriptions are remarkably consistent. A presence that exists everywhere simultaneously, that knows everything, that exists outside of time, that can intervene in physical reality in ways that defy the laws of nature as we understand them. These are not descriptions that independently emerged because humans imagined the same fantasy. These are descriptions that independently emerged because humans across every era experienced the same phenomenon and described it in the only language they had available. The Flatlander, who witnessed a sphere passing through its world, called it a monster, then called it a god, then was thrown in prison for claiming it was real. So is God real? That is not a question this episode can answer, and it would be dishonest to pretend otherwise. But here's what physics can tell us with genuine confidence. The universe almost certainly contains dimensions beyond the three we perceive. A being with access to those dimensions would possess properties that are indistinguishable from what every religious tradition in human history has ever described as divine. And our inability to detect such a being directly tells us nothing about whether it exists, because we already know we cannot detect most of what the universe contains. We cannot see dark matter. We cannot see dark energy. Together, they make up roughly 95% of everything that exists. We are blind to 95% of our own universe, and we are surprised that we might be blind to something else. The blind spot here is not the question of whether God is real. The blind spot is the assumption that if something were real, we would be able to see it. The Flatlander made the same assumption, right up until the sphere passed through its world and changed everything it thought it understood. Next, the hidden pattern behind why the people who love you the most are often the ones who see you the least.